All right, the White House is weighing in on these developments on Capitol Hill right now. An aggressive debate back and forth on the floor of the House as both sides make their pitch. Democrats against this repeal and replace effort. Republicans obviously for it, although those numbers could ultimately be very close. But the White House says it's critical that the House passes health care bill. Furthermore, that it fully expects the Senate to tweak the health care bill later. Of course, in tweaking, then it goes back to the House in conference, and that could set up some fireworks there, as is typically the case when the House and Senate have separate versions of essentially the same matter. Former Trump New York campaign co-chair Joe Borelli joining us, Democratic strategist Andrew Feldman, conservative commentator Gina Loudon. Gina, what's at stake for Republicans on this?
Well, I think they're re-elections, frankly, Neil. I think that if Republicans don't remain strong in the face of all of these things, in the face of this bill regarding health care, of course the tax plan, of course the border wall, those things, that they're going to go back to their constituents and they are going to end up primaried if they don't make a strong case. But I really do think that the Republicans, they've got their game on. It took a little bit to remember that they weren't the opposition party anymore, but I'm seeing great signs that they're progressing and unifying, and it's a great, wonderfully gratifying thing to see.
Joe Borelli, I know as a Trump former New York campaign chair, you're well aware of the president returning to New York, first time since becoming president, that protesters are going to be greeting him, hitting him on everything from climate change to this very issue and destroying health care and taking it away from folks. How do you think he should respond?
Well, I think with this specific speech he's giving tonight, I think he should ignore it totally. Look, this is New York. This is the home of progressiveness. This has been a progressive city for its entire history. But what's very striking about this protest tonight is that it's to drown out a commemoration of a 75-year-old battle where 646 Americans died. If the Democratic Party wants to win back moderates and people who they've abandoned in swing states that they lost in 2016, by being disrespectful to a commemoration of a battle is certainly not the way.
All right, Battle of the Coral Sea, where the Australians helped down that, and we worked in very close sync with each other there. But, you know, Andrew Feldman, looking at this, I wonder what Democrats seize on here. What they've been saying is millions of people are going to lose their health insurance. That might, in fact, be the case. Republicans argue that they're overstating those losses. But that health coverage will still exist for Americans, that whatever was started, it's not as if the Republicans are ripping it up and throwing it away. There are still going to be folks getting coverage via the United States government, if you think about it, right?
Look, unfortunately, it's not going to be as good, Neil. I mean, the reality here is that the Republican Party, the president, they're playing politics with the lives of the American people. They're putting the nation's health at risk. And that's what's happening. And this has gone too far. They're playing complete politics. This issue here, Neil, transcends party politics, right? The protests tonight, the protests over the weekend, the protests during recess, those are bipartisan protests from Republicans and Democrats because the majority,
wasn't it all politics, though, Andrew, when it was Democrats only voting for this back in 2010.
Neil, let me tell you, look, Neil, the 20 more million people have health care than they ever did before. This is a life or death vote. If Republicans vote for this, they're going to go down in 2018 because thousands of people, Neil, thousands of people will lose their coverage and thousands could die as a result of it. I'm not trying to be dramatic.
That's absurd.
I'm not trying to be absolutely.
That is dramatic. That's absurd. The only politics happening here is the fact that the Republicans are going to have to come in and save America from what Obama did to this country in an effort to socialize our medical system.
We're the only country. We're the only country in the modern world that can't provide health care to its citizens. And the reality is, if you look at that Upton Amendment,
Neil, not provided health care to our citizens.
There
are thousands,
millions of course, millions of people before that are going to not be able to get coverage because of pre-existing conditions.
We'll talk about that. We don't know how that's going to work out with the pre-existing conditions. It is still a gray area, to your point. But Joe Borelli, one of the things that comes up here is forget about those who've got coverage now who didn't have it. And I think, you know, Andrew makes a very good point about that. Gina does as well about the cost of that. But for a lot of people who don't even have coverage through this, including many who do have coverage through this, they've seen eye-popping premium increases. And many people, fairly or not, blame this government attempt to take over this. Republicans dial it back. What if they dial it back to the degree they want, and premiums are still skyrocketing, would that be seen as a great failure for Donald Trump?
Well, it certainly could be, and that's sort of the risk of doing something on this issue. But let's not forget, as one of your last guests pointed out, even Bill Clinton and the Democrats had come into this election cycle acknowledging that Obamacare was the problem, not the solution. And we shouldn't be surprised that the Democrats are going to make an issue on this. They've seen the playbook that the Republican Party used in 2012, and 14, and 16 to win back the House, win back the Senate, and the White House on this issue. When we talk about the activism and protest, let's remember that a week ago we had a less conservative bill, and it was because of conservative activists like Jim Jordan just pointed out that the bill has actually become more conservative.
All right, but bottom line, Republicans then, for good or ill, are going to be stuck with whatever problems are on that. It'll become their bill, right?
They own it now. They own it, and they're going to have to make it better.
All right.
And remember, Republicans are protesting this bill. The Republican congressmen should remember when they go to their constituents this weekend.
Well, not all their constituents.
But that's the
right?
difference. The Republicans
Majority
hold their
of their
own party
constituents, Neil,
accountable,
the majority.
and the Democrats never do.
We'll
That's
see.
the difference.
You know, I just think people like to complain. Not you guys, fine, but they like to complain. But we'll see what happens here because, again, if it's worse than it was, premiums go up, well, this could be for naught, and it will still be seen as a big old omnibus government program that is getting out of control, which is essentially Nancy Pelosi's pitch on the floor of the House, that if you don't like Obamacare, what Republicans are coming up with is worse. That's not exactly a Fox Business Alert, but I thought I'd share with you what she's saying. We'll have more after this.
That Medicare should wither on the vine.